Adam Crawford spent 39 years believing he had it right. He was raised in a devout Christian home, attended Bible college, pastored churches, and was even accepted into a Master of Divinity program at Fuller Seminary. The last place he expected to end up was the Catholic Church. Then he taught a church history class. "I wanted to give attendees some familiarity with the heroes of the faith since the time of Christ," Crawford recalls. He planned to cover from the apostles to the present in 16 weeks. But as he prepared, he made a discovery that stopped him cold. For the first 1,500 years of Christianity, fully 3/4 of all Christian history, to be Christian was to be Catholic. "I had never taken the time to consider it from an intellectual perspective before," he says. From the time of Christ until some 400 years ago, there was no question as to whether Catholic theology, teaching, and practice were an authentic expression of Christianity. They were the only expression of Christianity which existed. This realization forced Crawford to confront questions he had buried for decades. Growing up in evangelical and fundamentalist churches, he had always struggled with the doctrine of sola scriptura, Scripture alone. "I couldn't seem to get a good answer as to where this idea had come from, or more importantly, where the Bible asserted this doctrine," he explains. "The Bible seemed full of God speaking through prophets, priests, and the living tradition of his people, not dropping a user's manual from heaven." The lack of agreement among Protestants troubled him deeply. Everyone interpreted Scripture differently, and the only solution offered was to accept uncertainty. "To me, this was no solution, and left only a gnawing frustration," he writes. When Crawford examined the 5 solae of the Reformation more closely, he found himself disagreeing with most of them. Luther's addition of alone to Romans 3:28 and his desire to remove the book of James from the canon, calling it an epistle of straw, seemed inconsistent with the very authority Luther claimed to uphold. The doctrine of sola fide, faith alone, created even more problems. Luther taught that even Christians' good works have no value, leading to his infamous advice, "Be a sinner and sin boldly." Crawford found this impossible to reconcile with St. Paul's warning that the sexually immoral and greedy have no inheritance in the kingdom of Christ. As he studied what the early church actually believed, Crawford was shocked. Virtually all Catholic doctrine found its roots in the teachings of the early church, and almost all of it is attested to within the first 200 years after Christ. The real presence in the Eucharist, the veneration of Mary and the saints, baptismal regeneration, these weren't medieval inventions, they were the faith of the martyrs. But the deepest wound driving Crawford toward Rome was something else: certainty. As a pastor, he grew tired of telling people, "I don't know," about fundamental questions of salvation, morality, and doctrine. When his own sons asked him about sexuality, he could only offer reservations and cautions. "Probably better if you try not to, but it's only natural." For me, the answer cannot be, "I don't know." This is unacceptable to me as both a father and as one who was shepherding God's people. The final step was accepting that Christ's promise about his church was true. "I have decided that when he guaranteed his church that he would be with her always, even to the very end of the age, he meant it." On Easter Vigil 2013, Crawford and his wife were received into the Catholic Church. "It was one of the most profound and joyful experiences of his life," he says. After 39 years of searching, he had finally come home.